The morning air felt cool and bright as Amina Cole turned off the highway and followed a narrow road that curved between tall pines. The trees made a soft roof above her car, and sunlight slipped through like gold ribbons. She had driven this way many times before, but today felt different. A banner fluttered near the entrance gate, Community Open Day. Families stood in little groups, holding coffee and talking. Volunteers in orange vests waved cars along with friendly smiles. Amina parked, cut the engine, and let the quiet settle for a moment. She took a deep breath, the kind that clears the mind and sets the tone for the day. She opened the trunk and lifted a plain black case. It was not flashy or heavy with stickers. It looked like something you might carry to a music lesson or an art class. She liked it that way, low-key, simple, respectful. She checked that the latches were closed, then slung a small tote over her shoulder with ear protection, eye protection, a notebook, a pen, and a bottle of water. She wore jeans, a soft gray jacket, and running shoes. Nothing about her said expert. Everything about her said prepared. At the check-in table, a woman with a clipboard greeted her. "Welcome. Have you been here before?" Amina smiled and showed her ID. She read the posted safety rules next to the table, even though she could recite them by heart. Eyes first, ears next. Muzzle awareness. Follow range commands. Keep the space clean. Be kind to other guests. She signed the waiver, printed her name clearly, Amina J. Cole, and wrote instructor, guest in the tiny box that asked for affiliation. The volunteer stamped her hand and handed her a day pass. "All right, Miss Cole, you're good to go. Orientation starts every half hour. We recommend a safety brief at the pavilion before you pick a lane." She thanked the woman and followed the walkway to the pavilion. The place looked tidy and well cared for. Gravel paths were rake smooth. Signs were easy to read. There was no rushing, no feeling that she was being shoved from one step to another. At the pavilion, a range officer in a bright cap gave a short talk using calm, clear words. He pointed out the first aid box, the water coolers, and a shaded seating area for families who only wanted to watch. He spoke about teamwork and respect. Amina listened closely, the same way she always did. Safety culture was not a one-time lesson, it was something you refresh, like washing your hands before cooking, like checking mirrors before changing lanes. From the pavilion, she could see the whole field. It spread out in careful lines, with short lanes on one side for new guests and longer lanes stretching far into the sunlit distance. Paper targets swayed a little in the breeze. Steel plates hung on frames like simple wind chimes. The sound of the day was not harsh, it came and went like a heartbeat, punctual, controlled, contained. She noticed the wind flags, slim and bright, pointing first one way and then settling. The air felt cool on her face but warmer on her hands, a sign of a day that would grow brighter and busier as noon came near. A group of students in matching t-shirts walked by with a coach. They laughed in the easy way of people who felt safe and welcome. Their coach kept them moving in a line, hands free, bags zipped, eyes forward. It made Amina smile. She liked seeing good habits in young people, small steps that told a big story about care and trust. Near the clubhouse, a camera crew adjusted a tripod. Someone said a retired general would give a short talk later to thank donors. Amina nodded to herself. Events like this needed sponsors. What mattered was that the day stayed focused on learning and on doing things the right way. She found an empty bench and set down her case. She did not open it yet. Instead, she took out her notebook and wrote the date at the top of a clean page. She always started that way, with order and attention. She noted the time, the light, and the breeze that brushed the shrubs along the fence. Not numbers, not jargon, just the kind of observations that sharpen the senses. She drew a tiny map of the lanes, marking where the shade fell and where the sun might glare later. She drank some water, then wiped a small spot of dust from her glasses with a soft cloth. When she finally opened the case, she did it with quiet hands, like lifting the lid of a piano. Inside lay her tools, each in its place, each clean. She did not rush. She set out her ear protection and eye protection first. She checked that the space around her was clear and that no one would trip over a strap or a zipper. She greeted the man at the next bench with a friendly good morning, and the man nodded, returning the smile. He looked a little nervous, the way many guests did on their first open day. His fingers tapped the edge of his pass. "First time?" she asked. He chuckled. "Is it that obvious?" She said it wasn't obvious at all and told him the best thing to do was to take it step by step, listen to the staff, and enjoy the process. His shoulders dropped a little. It was the small sigh of someone who felt seen. Amina's phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her friend Maya, "You on site?" She typed back, "Yes. Looks good. Nice crowd." Maya sent a thumbs up and a heart. Amina slid the phone back into her pocket and let herself be present. This day was not about messages or headlines. It was about people in a shared space, learning and practicing respect. She had taught for years and loved the moments when a person's face lit up the instant when fear turned into understanding and understanding turned into calm. She walked out to the observation line and looked downrange. The morning sun made the field shimmer. You could tell the staff had worked early to set everything up. On a nearby lane, a mother and son stood with a range coach. The coach used simple language and gentle motions to show them how to stand and how to keep their attention where it belonged. The mother's hands shook at first, but after a few minutes they were steady. Amina watched the coach praise small wins. She loved that. Praise the small things. Build a strong floor, and the walls will stand. Back at her bench, she checked her ear protection and made sure it sealed well. She placed her eye protection over the bridge of her nose and felt the easy grip of the frame. She glanced again at the posted rules. You can never read them too many times. A volunteer stopped by to offer extra foam plugs to anyone who needed them. Another volunteer carried a big jug of cold water and refilled paper cups. People thanked her. The day moved with good rhythm. On the far side of the field, she saw the group in suits near the media tent. The retired general stood among them, shaking hands. He looked at ease in public, the way leaders often do at community events. He laughed with a few people and took a photo with a donor. A reporter held a mic and practiced a quick intro. It was all very normal, very ordinary, the kind of scene you've seen 100 times at a charity 5K or a school fair. Amina felt no need to walk over. She was not there to be seen. She was there to do her work with care. She set her case so it would not roll, then looked at her watch. There was time before the next rotation. She took out her notebook again and wrote a line about why she loved days like this. She wrote, "Every person learns at their own pace. Respect the pace." The words were simple and true. They belonged to no one and to everyone. She listened to the field breathe soft pauses, short bursts of sound, then quiet again. A small bird hopped across the gravel, found a crumb near a trash can, and flew to the fence. Even the bird seemed to sense the calm of the morning. A teenager in a blue hoodie stopped by her bench and peered at the range map posted on the wall. "Excuse me," he said, polite and a little shy. "Do you know which lanes are best for beginners?" Amina smiled. "The staff marked the first 10 for that," she said, pointing to the sign. "You'll have a coach with you the whole time. They're patient. You'll do fine." The teenager thanked her and hurried off, relief in his step. Amina liked answering questions. Questions are bridges. They turn strangers into neighbors, at least for a moment. Someone near the pavilion announced that a demonstration would start in a few minutes at the short lanes just to talk about safe handling and how to move through the space with care. Amina joined the small crowd. The instructor, a woman about Amina's age, used a steady voice and a friendly tone. She talked about focus, about keeping your mind where your hands are, about calling a pause if you felt unsure. "There's no hurry here," she said. "We're not racing anyone." The crowd nodded. It was a good message for more than just this place. It was a good message for life. After the talk, Amina returned to her bench with a quiet sense of purpose. She placed her notebook where she could see it. She clipped her pass to her jacket. She checked that the people around her felt supported and that the staff stood within sight. There was a sense of shared responsibility in the air, the feeling that everyone was part of the same team. She took another sip of water and let the cool taste reset her attention. By late morning, the sun was stronger, and shadows shrank under benches and chairs. More families arrived, greeting friends and pointing out the food truck near the parking lot. Music played softly from a speaker near the clubhouse instrumental, a good choice because it did not distract. Amina adjusted her jacket and wiped a bit of dust from her sleeve. She kept her focus gentle and wide, taking in the people, the flow, the mood. She could feel, even before anything happened, that this would be a day people remembered. Not for drama, not for argument, but for the way shared effort can make a space feel safe and kind. She thought about the path that brought her here, years teaching careful habits, hours spent talking people through first steps, thousands of small reminders said in a calm voice. She thought about the joy of watching someone realize, "I can do this, and I can do it safely." That joy never got old. It was why she kept showing up. She had seen many different kinds of people succeed when given time, guidance, and respect. She believed in that process the way gardeners believe in soil and sun. A gentle breeze stirred again, cooler now as a cloud moved across the sky. Amina looked up, watching the light soften and then brighten. She smiled at the simple beauty of it. A volunteer brought a basket of granola bars and handed them out on her way down the line. Amina took one and said, "Thank you for taking such good care of everyone." The volunteer beamed. "We try," she said. "We want folks to feel welcome." Amina nodded. "You're doing it right." As the next rotation time approached, a range officer called for guests to prepare. People checked their gear and tidied their spaces. Amina did the same. She moved with easy steps, unhurried and precise, like a dancer who knows the stage and trusts her feet. Nothing about her motion seemed dramatic. She was simply present, aware, and ready to be part of a day built on patience, good manners, and attention to detail. Across the field, near the media tent, a small cluster formed. The retired general and a few organizers faced the crowd while a camera light flicked on. Amina glanced that way out of habit, then looked back to her notes. She wrote one last line for the morning: "Kind hands. Clear mind. Safe place." The words felt right. They held the quiet promise of the day, the promise that people could gather, learn, and go home feeling proud of themselves and of one another. When the signal came to begin the next block, Amina stood, set her ear protection, and stepped forward. Her posture was calm. Her expression was soft but sure. She was one person among many, a steady figure in a bright morning, ready to participate in a community space built on care. She didn't seek attention, and she didn't demand praise. She simply brought what she always brought: respect for the rules, respect for herself, and respect for everyone around her. And in that quiet, steady way, the day unfolded. The late morning light grew warmer, and the small shadows that hid under benches slipped away. Amina Cole stood at her lane, calm as a steady clock. She set her tote where it would not bother anyone, checked the edge of the bench for loose splinters, and made sure the ground around her feet was clear. A staff member in an orange vest walked past and asked if she needed anything. Amina smiled and said she was fine. She liked to begin with quiet steps, the same way a baker lays out bowls before mixing the dough. Simple, careful, patient. A group in suits moved along the walkway, led by the retired general everyone had mentioned. People greeted him with quick handshakes. He had an easy laugh that carried down the line. When he neared Amina's lane, he looked at her case and then at her jacket as if trying to guess her skill level. He turned his head and said in a light, joking voice to two donors at his side, "Looks like Instagram lessons are starting early today." The two donors chuckled as if they were not sure what else to do. The words drifted into the air like a small paper kite. It was not loud, not harsh, and yet it landed where everyone could hear. Amina did not flinch. She had heard comments like that before, small jokes that were not really jokes. They were guesses made by people who did not know her, or what she had done, or what she cared about. She drew a full breath in and let it go. In her notebook, on the fresh page where she had written the date, she added one line, "Stay steady." Then she lifted her eyes and looked past the walkway, past the visitors and the suits, down to the field where the flags told the truth about the day. A young reporter who had been setting up near the media tent glanced over. His camera light was off, but the small mic clipped to his shirt was live because he had been testing sound. He heard the joke and looked back and forth between Amina and the retired general. He wasn't sure if it was a story or just a moment. But microphones do not have opinions, they simply catch what floats by. The words were on tape now, and the day had a new layer that no one had planned. A range officer stepped up beside Amina and offered a friendly smile. "We've got some light options up front if you want to warm up," he said, pointing toward a small rack where a .22 for beginners rested. His tone was kind, the same tone he used with everyone. "Thank you," Amina said, her voice gentle. "I brought my own for today. I'm good to go. But before I begin, could we please do a lane safety brief?" The range officer's face brightened. He loved when guests asked for that. "Absolutely," he said. "Let's walk through it." They moved with the calm of people who care about doing things right. He reviewed the lane boundaries, the command words, the ceasefire call, the first aid box location, and where to stand during a pause. Amina repeated each point back to show she heard and understood. She checked her protection again and thanked him for the clarity. The officer nodded and said, "If anything feels off at any time, just hold your place and raise your hand. We will take care of it." "I will," she said. "Thank you." She wrote a few simple notes in her book, "Warm light. Flag stir, then rest. Air feels cool on face." She did not need to write much. Listening to a place is as important as reading about it. Her mind settled into the rhythm she knew so well: observe, prepare, act, and then observe again. At the next bench, the man she had greeted earlier looked over with a hopeful glance. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Everything is good," Amina said. "How are you doing?" He laughed softly. "Still a little nervous." "That's normal," she said. "Just take your time. The staff here is helpful, and you're allowed to move slowly." The words seemed to loosen the knot in his shoulders. He thanked her again, and she offered a small thumbs up. Voices rose near the media tent as the retired general began a short thank you speech. He talked about community service and the importance of teaching young people kind habits. His tone was friendly. It felt like any other community day. But the earlier remark still hung in the air like a thin thread no one had clipped. Amina stayed with her plan. She set up her rest in a way that was not fancy, just simple and stable. She checked that nothing rolled, nothing wobbled, nothing could fall and bother a neighbor. She breathed with even rhythm, like a swimmer who trusts the water. The sound of the range rose and fell. Nothing was rushed. A small cloud slid across the sun and made the light soft. She liked the soft light, it made the world feel kind. A teenager in a blue hoodie returned to her lane, the same one who had asked her earlier about beginner lanes. "I got a spot up front," he said. "That coach is nice." "Good," she said. "Remember, if you feel unsure, you can pause and ask. That's not a weakness. That's wisdom." He nodded as if storing the line for later. Then he squinted toward the long lanes at the far end of the field. "Do people really use those?" he asked. "Some do," she said. "It's the same idea as the short lanes. Pay attention, be patient, trust your steps. The distance changes, but the habits stay the same." He smiled and said, "I like that." Then he jogged back to his group. The reporter drifted closer, now holding his camera at chest height. He stopped a respectful distance away. "Ma'am," he said in a careful tone, "I'm with the local station. I'm doing a feel-good piece about the event. Could I ask your name?" Amina looked at him and weighed the moment. "I'm Amina," she said. "Would you like to say more on camera?" he asked. "Not right now," she said kindly. "I'm here to learn like everyone else. Maybe later." He nodded and backed away. There was no push in him, only curiosity. Another staff member, a woman with a clipboard, came by with a sign-up sheet. "We're doing a friendly demonstration later," she said. "Sort of a how we read the day session. No pressure, just an example for visitors. A donor had asked for it," she explained, "so people could see how a calm process looks. If you want to join, just write your name." Amina considered the sheet for a quiet moment. She did not need to be in any spotlight. But she also knew that open days were about sharing good habits. She wrote, "Amina C." The retired general, standing a few lanes down, also wrote his name. The staff member smiled. "Thank you both," she said, and moved on. At her bench, Amina opened her case and checked her gear the way a teacher checks paper and pen on the first day of class. The tools were clean and plain. She did not talk about them, did not show them off, did not point them out. She simply made sure each piece sat where it should and that her space remained neat. A person at the next bench glanced over, perhaps surprised by how ordinary everything looked. "Ordinary can be a kind of grace," it says, "this is for learning, not for showing off." She took one more look at the range rules posted nearby, tracing the lines with her eyes as if reading a favorite poem. The rules were simple and good. Keep your attention where it belongs. Follow the commands. Speak up if you have a question. Help your neighbor be safe. It felt good to be in a place where rules were not heavy, they were steady. They made the space feel kind. The breeze began to come and go in small waves, brushing the flags so they leaned, then rested. Amina watched them for a while, the way one watches leaves on a tree to tell if rain is near. She wrote a small note, "Breeze from the left, gentle, then soft." She pressed the page flat with her palm and smiled at the simple beauty of noting the world as it is. From the walkway, a friendly voice called, "How's everyone doing?" It was the event coordinator, moving down the line with a cooler of water. People waved and held up cups. Someone joked about the food truck and promised to try every sauce. The laughter felt clean and light. Amina took a cup of water and thanked the coordinator. The water tasted cool and clear. She let it sit on her tongue for a second like a small gift. The retired general finished his thank you speech and walked back along the lanes with a few guests. He stopped every few steps to greet people. When he reached the area near Amina again, he paused and looked out toward the longer lanes. "We'll do a little demonstration later," he said to no one in particular. "Talk folks through what we look at on days like this." He glanced at Amina's notebook and the neat way she had arranged her space. "Preparation is half the work," he said, still in that public voice. "The rest is paying attention." Amina nodded. "Yes," she said simply. She took her place for a short warm-up like everyone else at her station. Her movements were quiet and respectful. She did not try to be fast. She did not try to be impressive. She tried to be correct. She let each breath become smooth and even. She kept her mind where her hands were. When she paused fully. When she looked, She looked clearly. The day around her carried on with soft, steady sound. A few people had gathered near the media tent now, curious without being pushy. The reporter stood nearby, still watching, still unsure if there was a story here or just a peaceful community day. He glanced at the retired general, then at Amina, and then at the families lined up at the short lanes. He could feel that the air had changed a little, as if the day had shifted from small talk to something that might matter. A girl with bright braids and a blue wristband tapped Amina's arm. She was with the teen group in matching shirts. Our coach said to watch people who move calmly, she said. You move calmly. Amina's smile reached her eyes. Your coach is wise, she said. Calm helps us think. The girl nodded, then looked down the field the way children look at a river they will one day swim across. Will you be in the demo? She asked. I think so, Amina said. Then I'll watch, the girl replied, and ran back to her group. The sign-up sheet returned as the coordinator confirmed names and times for the demonstration. It would not be a contest, she explained, only a clear walkthrough of how experienced guests read a day, how they set up, how they check the area, how they keep their minds steady when many people are watching. It's about teaching, not winning, the coordinator said. People clapped. That message fit the mood of the event like a key fits a lock. Amina added one more note in her book, share what helps, save the rest. She closed the cover and rested her hand on it for a second. She did not plan speeches. She planned to model care, the way to stand, the way to pause, the way to ask for a safety check even when no one else does. She knew that the quiet parts of a day often teach the most. The retired general looked her way again, perhaps curious, perhaps still thinking of his small joke from earlier. He gave a polite nod that could have meant many things. Amina returned the nod. If there was any sharpness left from that first remark, it did not show on her face. She carried herself like a person who knows the best reply is steady work done in plain sight. The breeze settled. The sunlight brightened. Families took seats under the shade canopy and shared snacks from paper bags. The sound of children laughing mixed softly with the careful rhythm from the lanes. It was a good sound, the sound of a place where people had come together to learn and to treat each other well. When the coordinator announced that the demonstration would begin after a short break, a gentle hush rippled through the area the way a small wave brushes the shore. People finished their water and stood, curious but respectful. Amina gathered her things the way a librarian gathers books, placing each piece where it belonged. She checked the walkway, checked the bench, and then checked her notebook one more time. She touched the words she had written that morning, kind hands. Clear mind. Safe place, and felt the peace in them. She was not thinking about the earlier remark anymore. She was thinking about the girl with the blue wristband, the nervous man at the next bench, the teenager in the hoodie, the volunteers with the cooler, and the staff who kept the space steady. She was thinking about the small lessons that turn a busy day into a kind day. She was ready to share those lessons, not with a show, but with simple steps anyone could copy. When the short break ended, the staff guided the small group of visitors to the viewing area for the demonstration. The retired general walked to one side, and Amina walked to the other. Neither of them said much. They did not need to. The moment itself was clear. People were not there to see a contest. They were there to see what calm looks like when many eyes are watching. Amina lifted her chin just a little, breathed a slow breath, and let the noise of the day fade into something gentle. The path ahead was not about proving anything. It was about showing how care looks when it is visible. She stood in the soft light, steady and present, with the simple promise she carried everywhere: preparation first, respect always, and kindness in every step. The crowd settled. The coordinator smiled. The field grew quiet in that special way a good space grows quiet when people are ready to learn. And in that quiet, the day turned toward whatever would come next. The viewing area filled gently, the way a tide comes in no rush, just a steady gathering of faces. Parents found seats under the shade. Teens leaned on the railing. Volunteers guided people to stand clear of the marked zones. The coordinator spoke first in a warm voice. She explained that the demonstration would show how careful planning and calm choices lead to good results. "This isn't a contest," she said, smiling. "It's a lesson you can take with you about attention, patience, and respect." People nodded. It felt like the right message for the day. Amina stood at one side of the long field. The retired general stood at the other. The distance between them was not about being against each other, it was simply the layout the staff had set up. The reporter stayed well back, camera at a respectful angle. The sound crew kept their gear small and quiet. The range officer walked the line one more time, checking that everyone understood the commands. He looked pleased with the calm in the air. A breeze lifted the edge of the event banner and made it flutter. The wind flags downrange leaned left, then right, then rested like they were thinking. Amina watched them with soft eyes. She also watched the wavering air just above the ground, where heat made the light ripple. She wrote a few words in her notebook: breeze playful, light shimmer. Simple words, but they centered her. She touched the page lightly and closed the cover. The coordinator invited Amina to speak first about how she begins. Amina kept it short. "I start with safety," she said. "Then I notice the day, the light, the air, the way the flags move. If anything feels unclear, I pause and ask. The goal is not speed. The goal is steady, kind steps." The girl with the blue wristband, standing near the front, nodded hard as if she wanted to remember each word. The retired general spoke next. He thanked the staff and the donors and said he was glad to be part of a place that taught careful habits. He looked out over the long lanes and made a small joke about how the wind loved to play tricks. People chuckled. It was a friendly sound. The earlier remark he had made in passing seemed far away now, softened by the day's kinder mood. The range officer suggested that each experienced guest should show how they read the day at a nearer distance before moving farther out. Amina thought that was wise. She asked for time at the 100-yard lane to confirm that her setup matched the day. The officer agreed and guided her there. She checked that nothing wobbled, that her ear protection sat right, and that the area behind her stayed clear. She breathed in and out, slow and easy. She was not in a hurry. A mother near the shade canopy asked the coordinator what the flags meant. The coordinator explained in plain words that flags showed the wind's direction and a little of its strength, and that even a gentle breeze moved the path of what people were trying to line up. "It's like tossing a paper plane," she said. "If the air pushes this way, the plane will drift. You learn to see the push and plan for it." The mother smiled. That made sense. At the 100-yard line, Amina did a simple check, the kind that looks almost boring if you don't know how much it matters. She made sure her eye lined up comfortably and that her hands rested in a way that let her move smoothly. She looked at the background, looked at the foreground, and made sure her attention stayed with her steps. The sound of the field seemed to fade in and out like a quiet song. When she paused all the way. When she moved gently. After a short while, she made a small note in her book: aligned. The teenager in the blue hoodie came to the rail with his group. The coach whispered, "Watch how she checks, then checks again. That calm is a skill." The teen's eyes brightened. He could see that calm in Amina's hands and shoulders. It was like seeing a musician tune an instrument until it sang just right, even before the first note. The range officer, pleased with how both guests were modeling good habits, announced the next step. "We'll walk out to a farther line now," he said. "This is only for demonstration. Please keep clear of the marked areas." People shifted but stayed quiet. The staff had a way of making many small moves feel easy and safe. As Amina set up again at a farther lane, the wind flags downrange leaned more strongly. The air above the ground rippled like water in shallow sun. The light was cheerful but not harsh. The retired general, on a separate lane, joked softly with the people near him. He seemed relaxed. A friendly donor, holding a program booklet, suggested that maybe the two experienced guests could ring the same steel plate at the far end as a cheerful finish to the lesson, just so the crowd could hear what success sounded like. The coordinator hesitated, then looked at the range officer. "If we do it," she said, "we keep the tone calm and the steps careful." The officer agreed. "We'll treat it like music class, not a race," he said. People nodded. It felt kind and fair. A volunteer carried a small whiteboard to the viewing area and drew a simple picture, a long line, a small square far away, some wavy lines for wind, and a few flags. "Think of it like walking a straight path while the breeze tries to nudge you to the side," she explained. "You angle your steps a little into the breeze so you still end up where you meant to go." Heads bobbed along the rail. The picture helped. Amina asked for a few minutes at a middle distance first. "I'd like to match my notes to the day," she said in her quiet voice. The officer smiled. "That's good practice," he said. She watched the flags again, wrote one more line, and tested a simple series: observe, act, observe, adjust. Nothing was flashy. Everything was calm. She spoke softly to the girl with the blue wristband, who had edged closer with permission from the staff. "I look for patterns in the breeze," Amina said. "If it leans one way and then returns, I time my action for when it returns. If the pattern changes, I wait. Waiting is allowed." The girl lit up. "I like that rule," she said. "Me too," Amina replied. The retired general showed his own careful process at a similar distance. He was clearly experienced and moved with the easy rhythm of someone who had taught before. He explained, in friendly words, how he liked to watch more than one flag because the air near the viewer was not always the same as the air far away. "It's a long field," he said. "You listen to all of it." The crowd enjoyed learning from both of them. The day felt generous, like a table set with many small dishes and an invitation to try a little of each. Then the breeze shifted just as the coordinator announced the final part of the lesson: the cheerful ring on a far plate. The flags near the middle leaned left, while the flags closer to the far line leaned right, and the thin mirage wavered like a thought that wouldn't settle. Small leaves shivered and then lay still. The reporter, watching this dance, whispered to his sound tech, "This is the interesting part." Not because anyone would win, but because real life rarely gives a perfect still moment. The lesson would now include how to stay kind and patient when the day asks more of you. Amina's neighbor from earlier, the nervous man at the next bench, had made his way to the rail. He fiddled with the corner of his day pass and looked worried for Amina, as if the shifting air were a thing that could bump a person's spirit. She caught his eye and gave a small grin, the kind of grin that says, "We're okay." He relaxed a little, let his shoulders drop, and clasped his hands together. The coordinator said, in a light tone, "Sometimes the day plays a little music of its own. We'll give our guests a moment to listen." It was a lovely way to buy time without making anyone feel rushed. People waited happily. A few sips of water. A few whispers. Children swung their legs from the seats. Amina watched the pattern change and then settle into a new rhythm. She took her time. She did not guess wildly. She did not chase quick results. She waited for the breeze to show her what it wanted to do again and again. She set her hands where they felt steady. She breathed as if counting quiet steps. She looked downrange and then looked at the small whiteboard in her mind, the simple picture with the line and the flags and the wavy air, and she let that picture guide her. A volunteer's radio crackled softly with a check-in from the far line. The officer nearest Amina lifted a hand to show all was clear. The coordinator turned to the crowd and said, "You'll hear a clear sound when the plate is touched. If the sound doesn't come at first, that's part of the lesson too. We notice, we adjust, we try again. The retired general glanced toward Amina. This time his expression held no teasing. It held respect. He nodded once, as if to say, steady. She returned the nod. The teenager in the hoodie, gripping the rail, whispered to his coach, "She's really calm." The coach smiled. "That calm is her superpower," he said. "And you can learn it too." A gust came through, stronger than before, pushing the flags in one direction and making a few hats tilt. Then it softened again, leaving the air almost quiet. Many people would have rushed to act in the stillness just after a gust, but Amina did not move quickly. She waited to see if the breeze wanted to return. Sure enough, it did. A gentle lean, then a small rest, then the same lean again. A pattern. She marked it with a tiny, unseen rhythm in her mind. The range officer walked behind the line and, in his calm voice, invited each guest to take their time. "No one is counting seconds," he said. "We'll all breathe together." A soft laugh spread through the crowd. It was a good laugh, the kind that says, "We're in this as a group." Amina spoke without raising her voice. She told the girl with the blue wristband that she was going to act when the breeze did its small return. "I will move during the calm, but only if the calm is real," she said. "If it changes its mind, I will wait." Waiting is still allowed. The girl grinned, repeating the phrase under her breath like a charm. The retired general prepared on his side, also patient. He checked the flags near him, then the flags farther down. He paid attention to the thin shimmer above the ground. He, too, had seen days like this and knew that peace gets better results than hurry. The reporter zoomed in a little, careful not to crowd. He could tell the audience was leaning inward, not with tension but with interest. They were not wishing for drama. They were wishing to learn how calm looks when the world wiggles a little. Amina rested her hand on the page of her notebook one last time. The words from earlier felt like a small hand on her shoulder, kind hands. Clear mind. Safe place. She looked up, and the field looked back, as if it approved. The breeze leaned, rested, leaned again. The flags held their small dance. The light stayed soft. The staff stood ready. The lane beside her was clear and quiet. The teenager at the rail held his breath without meaning to. The girl with the blue wristband squeezed her program booklet. The neighbor with the day pass had stopped fidgeting. The coordinator's voice reached only as far as it needed to. "Whenever you're ready," she said. Amina let one more full breath pass through her. She felt the calm in her shoulders, in her hands, in the place behind her ribs where attention lives. The world seemed simple for a moment, just air, light, patience, and the quiet promise to do things with care. The far plate waited in the distance. The flags told their story. The day held stillness and little movements side by side, as days often do. Amina's focus settled like a feather landing on a smooth table. She was not thinking about who watched, or what had been said earlier, or what anyone might say later. She was thinking about kind steps taken in the right order. The moment felt soft and bright, like a held note in a song. Amina looked once more at the long field. She checked the simple things she always checked: her stance, her balance, the way her shoulders rested, the easy seal of her ear protection, the clean view through her glasses. She made sure her space was neat and clear so no one would trip. The range officer glanced over and gave a small sign with his hand. "All good." She answered with a small nod that said the same. The breeze leaned, rested, leaned again. The flags told a story that now felt familiar. The thin shimmer of warm air above the ground bent slightly to one side and then came back, like a polite bow. Amina chose the calm part after the return. Not the first calm. The real calm. She breathed in and out, slow and even, as if counting to 4 in her head. Her hands were steady, her eyes kind. She reminded herself of the order she trusted: see, decide, move, then see again. The crowd did not press forward. They stayed where the volunteers asked them to stay. They held their curiosity with good manners. The girl with the blue wristband stood at the rail, eyes wide but calm. The teen in the hoodie leaned forward a little and then remembered to stand back. The retired general, on his own lane, breathed in the same calm rhythm. He, too, watched the flags, and he, too, waited for the small return. Amina made her choice with no rush. She let the calm settle. She let her body become part of that calm. She made a smooth action that did not look like much from the viewing area, just a tiny move, a touch, a pause, and then a follow-through the way a musician holds the last part of a note. There was no lurch, no flinch. It was more like a yawn you let finish on its own. Then the far plate answered the field with a clean, bright sound. Not loud. Not sharp. Just a friendly ring, like a spoon tapping a glass to call everyone to dinner. People did not shout. They made a soft sound together, surprise mixed with relief. The range officer smiled, the small proud smile of a teacher who sees good steps taken in the right order. The coordinator's shoulders softened. The nervous neighbor with the day pass let out a breath he did not know he was holding and laughed quietly at himself. The girl with the blue wristband clasped her hands as if holding a secret she wanted to keep. Amina did not break her rhythm to look around. She stayed with the day, the way a gardener stays with the soil even after a seed is planted. She watched the flags again. The breeze did its little dance again. She let it show her what it wanted to do next. When the pattern repeated, she made a second calm move. The far plate answered again with the same clear tone. The sound floated back like a hello carried on a string. The reporter did not rush in. He knew the story right now was not words, it was the shape of patience made visible. He took a few steps to one side so he would not block anyone's view and captured the moment from a respectful angle. You could see, even through a lens, that the mood was gentle and good. On his lane, the retired general moved with the care of someone who has taught and learned in public many times. He made his own read of the breeze and the light. The first time he tried, the far sound did not come. He did not hurry to try again. He smiled at himself in a way that said to the crowd, it's part of the lesson. He checked the flags, matched the pattern Amina had waited for, and then made his own smooth action clean, calm, complete. This time the far plate gave a friendly answer for him too. The crowd gave a small, warm clap, the kind you hear at a community recital. It felt right and fair. The range officer, happy with the tone, invited Amina to speak a few words about what she did. She kept it simple and plain. I waited for the pattern to come back, she said. Then I moved only as much as I needed, and I stayed with the move all the way through. The quiet after the action matters as much as the action. She opened her hands to show the idea of follow-through, the way a person might show how to carry a full cup without spilling. People nodded. They could feel the sense in it. The teen in the hoodie looked at his coach. So the calm after is part of it, he whispered. The coach grinned. Yes, he said. It tells your whole self that the step is complete. The girl with the blue wristband repeated the new line in a whisper as if storing it in a pocket, the quiet after matters. The coordinator, seeing how gentle the mood had become, asked both experienced guests to show how they paused and reset between steps. Amina was glad to model that. She stepped back from her place, cleared her space with the exact motions the rules asked for, and pointed out to the crowd how she checked the area, spoke to the safety officer with her eyes and hands, and returned everything to rest before taking another turn. No drama. Full attention. She showed how you can be careful in a way that feels like kindness to everyone around you. The retired general mirrored the same routine on his lane, matching every step. He added a small note in a warm voice, I've learned over the years that good habits are gifts we give to the people near us. The donors and visitors smiled. The line felt true. A volunteer rolled a whiteboard closer and asked if Amina could draw the pattern she had waited for. Amina sketched a simple rhythm: lean, rest, lean, the slow sway of a tree that likes the breeze but does not allow it to push too far. She drew a small arrow to show where she chose to act and a curved line to show how she stayed with the action afterward. The drawing looked like a gentle wave with a tiny sailboat tilting at just the right time. Even children could see the idea and like it. The range officer asked if the crowd wanted to hear the cheerful ring one more time before the demonstration closed. People agreed, but the coordinator reminded everyone that the main point was the careful steps, not a count of sounds. "We're here for the process," she said. "The results follow the process." Heads nodded again. Amina returned to her place, not to show off, but to close the lesson in the same calm spirit. The air had changed a little, as the day always does. The flags leaned a bit more, then eased. She waded through one pattern that felt uncertain. She waded through another that almost matched. She chose the third, which felt steady and true. She made her gentle action. The far plate answered with that same friendly note people had come to love in the last few minutes. It felt like a thank you from the field. The retired general took his turn, and the day, being friendly, gave him the same clear reply. He lowered his hands and looked across the space toward Amina. He lifted his chin in a quiet sign of respect, the kind of sign two people give when they both care about good work done the right way. Amina returned the sign, not as a winner to a loser, but as one teacher to another. The coordinator clapped softly, and the crowd followed with warm applause that rose and fell like a calm tide. There was no cheering for one person or the other. The feeling was more like appreciation for a class that had gone well. People had learned something they could use: how to slow down, how to notice, how to let care lead. Amina stepped back and did her full reset again. She cleared, checked, and secured, then invited the girl with the blue wristband and the teen in the hoodie to repeat the reset with her using empty hands. "We practice the safe steps even when our hands are empty," she said, smiling. The three of them moved in sync, and the crowd smiled too. It was sweet without being silly. It showed that the heart of the day was not tools, it was habits. The reporter finally approached, keeping his voice gentle. "Ma'am, may I ask you one question for the community piece?" Amina nodded. He asked, "What would you like people to remember from today?" She answered with calm eyes. "Remember that waiting is allowed," she said. "Respect is allowed. Asking for clarity is allowed. If we do those things, we help each other feel safe and strong." The reporter thanked her. It was a short line, but it fit nicely inside a good day. The retired general spoke to the crowd for a moment too. "I'm grateful for the staff here," he said, "and for the way we all learned together. I was reminded that patience is not a delay, patience is a tool." The donors clapped at that. It was a line they could carry home. Volunteers guided people back toward the shade. The coordinator thanked everyone for standing where they were asked and for keeping the lanes clear. She invited families to visit the information table to learn about future open days and safety classes. The sound of the event settled into a happy hum, low voices, small laughter, the clink of cups at the water cooler. Amina closed her notebook after adding 3 small lines at the bottom of the page: pattern seen. Calm chosen. Steps shared. She liked how those words felt. They were light and tidy, like 3 neat stones placed on a shelf to remind you of a walk you loved. The nervous neighbor came by and said, "I was worried for you when the breeze picked up." Amina smiled kindly. "Thank you for caring," she said. "It's okay to be concerned. We just answer concern with careful steps." He nodded, his face brightening. "I learned more from watching you wait than from anything else," he said. "I think I can bring that to other parts of my life." She laughed softly. "That's the best part," she said. "These lessons travel." The teen in the hoodie and the girl with the blue wristband asked for one more simple tip they could write down. Amina offered the one that had helped many people before them. Make a tiny checklist you can say in your head, she said. Mine is, see. Breathe. Set. Move. Stay. Reset. Short words, easy to remember. They repeated it together until it felt like a song. Their coach promised to put the words on a printed card for the group. The staff began to tidy the viewing area, picking up paper cups and straightening signs. The sun had moved just enough to lay new shadows across the field. The long lanes looked peaceful again, like a quiet road after a parade. People drifted toward the food truck or the information table. Some stayed to talk about the breeze and the flags and how good it felt to watch calm win the day. Amina helped a volunteer coil a cord and stack a few folding chairs. She always liked to leave a place better than she found it. The retired general joined them, holding a stack of programs and making neat piles on the table. He spoke softly to Amina so only she could hear. "Thank you for the lesson," he said. "I learned from the way you waited." She met his eyes and said, "We all learn from each other when we let the day teach." They both smiled, and the moment rested there, simple and complete. The coordinator walked over with gratitude written all over her face. "That was exactly the tone we hoped for," she said. "Kind, patient, clear." She asked if Amina would be willing to share a few notes later with the staff about how to make the Read the Day segment even more helpful for visitors. Amina agreed. She loved small improvements that make spaces friendlier. As the demonstration hour closed, the field felt like a page turned to the next chapter. The lesson was finished, but its echo stayed in people's minds. Parents spoke quietly to children about patience. Teens compared the little rhythms they had seen. Volunteers joked about whose checklists would be the prettiest if they turned them into signs. The reporter packed up with a thoughtful look, already guessing which lines would mean the most to viewers at home. Amina placed her notebook back in her tote. She did one more slow look around her space. Bench clear, ground clear, neighbors at ease. The flags downrange still leaned and rested in their small, steady dance, just as they had before. The day kept its promise, to be itself. And the people kept theirs, to meet the day with care. In that gentle balance, the brightest part of the afternoon began. The afternoon opened like a friendly door. People moved back to their seats and benches with easy steps. The long field looked peaceful again. Volunteers gathered cups, straightened signs, and handed out small cards that the teen coach had quickly made at the information table. On the front of each card were 6 short lines, the rhythm Amina had shared: see. Breathe. Set. Move. Stay. Reset. The words were big and clear, printed in simple black on white. The girl with the blue wristband held her card like a treasure. The teen in the hoodie slipped his into his phone case so he would not lose it. The reporter asked the coordinator if he could take a few quick statements for the evening segment. The coordinator nodded, reminding him to keep walkways clear. He interviewed a parent who said the lesson felt like a kindness class. He spoke to a volunteer who said the day showed how patience makes everyone safer. He asked the retired general for a final word, and the general gave a short line in a steady voice: "Good habits are respect in motion." Then the reporter turned to Amina again. She kept her answer as plain as the sky. "I am grateful for a space that values care. Waiting is allowed. Asking for clarity is allowed. We learn more when kindness leads." The crowd thinned a little as families visited the food truck. A pair of grandparents took pictures by the event banner. The nervous neighbor stopped by to say goodbye. He looked lighter. "I signed up for the Saturday safety class," he said, showing the email on his phone. "I want to learn the steps the right way." Amina smiled with her eyes. "You'll be in good hands," she said. "Go slow. Ask questions. You'll enjoy it." He promised he would and waved as he left. The retired general walked over with 2 bottled waters. He offered one to Amina. "For later," he said. He looked a little thoughtful, the way a person looks when a small idea has grown larger in the heart. "I'd like to say something plainly," he added, speaking at a normal volume so anyone nearby could hear. "My remark earlier was careless. I'm sorry. Thank you for the lesson you shared with all of us." There was no big speech in his voice, only sincerity. Amina nodded once. "Thank you for saying that," she replied. "We all have days when we speak faster than we notice. What matters is how we continue." The coordinator returned with a clipboard and a hopeful expression. "Would you consider leading a monthly Read the Day clinic?" she asked. Same calm tone, same simple steps. We could focus on new guests, families, and anyone who wants to strengthen safe habits. Amina said yes without drama. She loved the idea of a regular space for gentle learning. The retired general heard the plan and said he would cover the cost of printed materials and refreshments for the first 6 months. "No big plagues," he joked softly. "Just good tea, water, and helpful handouts." The coordinator's eyes shone. It felt like the start of something steady and good. By late afternoon, the sun shifted and laid a fresh pattern of shade across the benches. The event slowed to a friendly hum. Amina helped stack chairs and fold tablecloths. She thanked each volunteer, calling them by name from their badges. The girl with the blue wristband tugged her mother's sleeve and asked if they could come back for the clinic next month. The mother said yes. The teen coach gathered his students and led a quick reflection. Each teen shared one thing learned from the day. Most talked about waiting. One talked about checking the area for neighbors before starting. Another said the tiny checklist would help with school exams and soccer practice too. As the last visitors drifted away, the field became quiet enough to hear the small sounds that busy hours often hide: a bird hopping on the fence, a leaf skimming gravel, the distant hum of a highway made soft by trees. Amina took one final walk along the path, eyes down for any stray paper or forgotten cup. She found nothing. The space looked as tidy as a freshly made bed. She drove home by the same road between tall pines. The light through the branches made a gentle pattern on her windshield. At a red light, she glanced at her notebook on the passenger seat. The last lines from the day felt complete: pattern seen. Calm chosen. Steps shared. She liked the shape of those words. They were small and sturdy, like smooth stones she could place on any table and feel steadier by looking at them. At home, she set her case in its usual place, washed her hands, and poured a glass of water. She stood by the window and let the evening cool her face. Her phone buzzed. It was Maya. "How did it go?" the text asked. Amina sent a short reply: gentle. Helpful. New clinic starting. Maya sent back a row of sun emojis and asked if she could visit next month to help with sign UPS. Amina smiled and typed, "Yes, please." Just before dinner, the coordinator emailed to thank her again and to share a photo the volunteer had taken of the whiteboard drawing. In the picture, the little wave and tiny sailboat looked almost like a children's book. The coordinator wrote, "With your permission, we'd like to print this as a poster. Read the Day waiting is allowed." Amina replied, "Of course. Keep it simple." Big letters. She attached a typed version of the 6-step rhythm so the fonts would be clean. That evening, the local station aired the short segment. The report showed small, quiet moments: volunteers offering water, a coach praising a student, flags leaning and resting, and Amina sketching the wave. The retired general's apology played exactly as he had spoken it. The anchor closed with a line viewers would remember: "Patience isn't a delay, it's a skill." The comments that followed online were kind and gentle. People praised the staff. Some asked when the next open day would be. A local school wrote to the range to request a calm habits talk for 9th graders. The message spread in a soft way, like steam leaving a cup of tea warm and steady. Over the next week, the range office saw more sign UPS for the Saturday safety class. A new line on the website appeared: monthly, read the day clinic open to all, especially families and beginners. The description used simple language and listed 3 promises: clear rules, kind tone, and enough time to practice without rush. A donor quietly covered the cost of ear and eye protection for guests who needed them. Another donor offered print credit for the posters and cards. The space filled with a sense of shared care. On the first clinic day, Amina arrived early with a box of the new cards. The poster with the wave hung near the pavilion. The retired general came too, wearing plain clothes and carrying a tray of tea and cups as promised. He asked where to set them and took direction from volunteers like any other helper. The teens from the earlier event returned to model the empty hands reset routine. The girl with the blue wristband stood near the whiteboard with a marker and wrote down good phrases guests said so they would not be lost. The phrases were sweet: let patience drive, check your neighbor's space, and finish the quiet after. Amina began each clinic with the same few lines. We will keep our attention where our hands are, she said. We will ask questions when we need to. We will move at a pace that lets us think. If anything feels unclear, we will pause together. She taught adults and children to watch flags the way they might watch clouds or trees, not as a trick but as a conversation with the day. She showed how to make a tiny checklist for any careful task: cooking, building, crossing a busy street, studying, calming a nervous mind. People nodded. They could feel how the steps traveled. After a few months, the range had a small wall of thank you notes written in many hands. One came from a nurse who said the calm steps helped her during a busy shift. Another from a bus driver who said, waiting is allowed changed how he handled a tight schedule. A third from a parent said the empty hands reset made mornings smoother before school. The notes made volunteers smile when they walked by to refill water. The retired general kept his promise to fund the practical things. He also wrote a simple letter to the board about expanding beginner hours and creating a scholarship for range safety instructors from underrepresented groups. The board said yes. The scholarship announcement used plain words and asked for a short essay on how patience keeps people safe. The first recipients included a community college student, a teacher who ran an after-school club, and a former medic starting a new chapter. Amina met each of them for tea, shared her 6-step rhythm, and listened to their plans. None of this turned Amina into a celebrity, which suited her. People recognized her face sometimes and thanked her for the phrase waiting is allowed. She always said the same thing: I didn't invent waiting. I'm just giving it a good name. She kept teaching, kept showing small steps in plain sight, and kept closing each session with a quiet reset so the space ended as safe as it began. One evening, long after the first open day, she looked out her window at the street light glowing on the sidewalk. She opened her notebook to a clean page and wrote a few lines for herself, the way she always did when a season felt complete. What is steady grows, she wrote. Good habits travel. Kindness teaches even when no one is watching. She thought of the girl with the blue wristband, the teen in the hoodie, the neighbor with the day pass, the volunteers with coolers, the coordinator with her clipboard, and the retired general pouring tea beside a poster that said read the day. She thought of the whiteboard wave and the tiny sailboat. She thought of the sound that had floated back across the field like a hello. She closed the notebook and placed it on the shelf by the door, where she kept small things that made her braver: a library card, a photo of the pines, a simple pen that never leaked. She turned off the lamp and let the room rest. The night outside was quiet and kind. In the morning, she would drive the same road between the same trees to meet new people who were ready to learn. She would start the clinic the same way she always did, with a smile and the short promises. She would point to the poster and say, read the day. Waiting is allowed. She would pass out the 6-step cards and invite guests to make their own tiny checklist for the tasks of their lives. The field would breathe. The flags would lean and rest. And the work would continue, not loud or flashy, but steady, the way good things are when many hands hold them with care. If anyone asked what the real story had been on that first open day, she would answer in the simplest way she knew. People learn to be gentle with time, she'd say. We let patience lead. We gave respect room to work. And once the calm had taught us, we shared it. Then she would return to the steps she loved: see, breathe, set, move, stay, reset, because in the end, the lesson was not about a single moment at all. It was about building a habit of kindness that could last.